Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video build series, and in this video we're going to start work on Zvezda's beautiful 787-9 Dreamliner. Welcome back to a brand new video build series, and as you know from clicking on the video, it's going to be the 787-9 1/4 scale by Zvezda. Looks a beautiful kit, just like the other airlines that they do. And as you remember, we recently did the 737-800 in American Airlines scheme. That turned out pretty nice. So I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to check a couple of boxes. It's going to check the civil aviation box, and it's going to check the sci-fi box, because we're going to do it in the awesome ANA R2D2 livery. And I'll put a picture up so you can see what it looks like. So we're going to use as we did American Airlines, we're going to use the PAZ decals from Russia. It comes in this big sheet right here. These are really, well, before they're really nice to work with. The only issue is they're laser printed, so what you have to do is have to individually cut each one out with a pair of scissors. Now, it's not going to be so bad because these are huge decals and going to cover pretty large areas of the aircraft. There's not too many like tiny little fiddly ones. So we're going to use these as decals. We do have a little bit of painting. I think the front end we need to paint grey, and the nose we need to paint blue, so we have to color match it. But pretty much the decals are going to make most of the awesome pattern on this guy. So the other thing is, as you can see here, the decals, we'll talk about it later on when we get there, but you got the window outlines for the frames, but you don't actually have the windows themselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to kind of cannibalize another set I have and steal some windows from a different pack. So I do have the 26 decals Virgin Atlantic 787-9, which again is a beautiful livery. I think just that like light pearlescent grey colour, it really looks nice. So I have two minds about which one to do, but I'm obviously going to do the R2D2, but I'm going to take the windows. As you can see here, we get all the windows, which are actually screen printed. So it's like normal decals where you don't have to cut them out, they just kind of slide off. So we're going to use these windows in conjunction with the PAZ decal main kind of R2D2 livery. So that's the kind of what we're going for. These kits aren't like not normally too labor intensive, they're not too many sprues. We can open the box up. Inside is a nice grey box. And as you can see, as always, we get the stand, which we're not going to use. We get the windows, which we're not going to use, and here it is. You can see kind of how big it's going to be as a wing. So basically, just looking at here, it looks like it's got 3 sprues. Basically, you got the fuselage halves, you got the wing section, and then you got basically the engines and the undercarriage. And the engine's obviously a lot bigger on this than they were at 737, so we can do a little bit more work and detail on this as well. But it's all sealed, and it looks like a really nice kit. So instructions, you only get basically one big page. And that's it. So 2 things on this one to watch out for. I'm actually going to fill the windows differently. I'm going to do my usual method, which is from the inside out. When we did the 737, we did the outside in, and I wasn't quite 100% sure about that. So this time we'll do the other method. So I'll show you how I use the Milliput and go from the inside, which we'll do in this video today. And the other part is obviously, we're talking about a long fuselage here. You know, I'm not sure, I don't have a tape measure, but it's, you know, it's well over 1 foot long. So we'll make sure that that's seamless, top and bottom of the fuselage too. And hopefully we'll see like 737. If this 787 is really good fit as well, then hopefully we do the wing separately and just add it to the end like we did with the other model. But yeah, lots of stuff to look forward to on this one. Really enjoying the airliner builds, and I think with the R2D delivery, it's really gonna look awesome, especially the Star. Like, who doesn't like Star Wars, right? So that's what we're going for. So I'm going to clear my bench away, all this stuff out, get the camera switched over behind me to the overhead camera, and then we can start working on this. And what we'll start immediately with is working on the fuselage and getting the windows filled and getting it put together. Alrighty, so I've got the camera switched down here, and as you can see, I'm wearing gloves. And I actually wore these same gloves when I last did my 737. I've worn them for the first time since, and you can see why we're wearing gloves, because the Milliput we're going to use, it gets all over your fingers, and you definitely need gloves for this. So literally just taking these straight out of the box. I'm not even cutting off the sprues yet, but we're going to fill the windows. Now, I'm kind of anxious to do this first, really because, well, maybe timing wise, because right now it's in the evening, so if I can do it now, I can leave it overnight and make it fully cured by the morning, so we can come back and sand it away. So my last video, as you know, 737, I did the outside in. It was okay, it was okay effect, but this time I think it's a lot less work and sanding done from the inside. So I'm actually going to just do one to show you, but I'll obviously do both. But first of all, I guess I'm going to show you the kind of size of this guy. So it doesn't even quite fit on camera, but if I put it on a cutting mat, it's going to be about 17 inches long. So it's quite a big beast, this guy. So let me put one side away. Plastic is perfectly molded and crisp, which is why I like Zvezda. And
as always with airlines, we're using Milliput. This is a super fine white. You can find this pretty readily available in craft stores, or no, Amazon Prime has it for sure, but it's probably a little bit more expensive. But in case it comes in 2 parts, as I mentioned before, you got a hardener and you got the actual putty itself. So you kind of want to do 50-50. Now last time I made a punch up, so this time hopefully I'll learn and not make quite so much. So it goes quite a long way. So I'm just going to take a piece. We'll start with this much. So like that white. And the same amount of hardener. So it's a 50-50 mix. Just kind of eyeball this. I know some people kind of weigh them on scales and stuff, but I think that's a little bit too much. So you kind of look here, it's pretty much 50-50. A little bit more hardener, but that's not a problem because I obviously want this thing to cure. So what we're going to do is basically take it and just knead it. And this is why we're using the gloves on this. And just really kind of get it warm in your hands and just knead it, get it all mixed up. And this is pretty important you do a good job on this, because when I first started using Milliput, I didn't do a great job of mixing it and getting it all blended, and I'd wonder like 24 hours later why it never set, and it made all kinds of issues, because then I'd have to kind of chip it all away and redo it all and stuff. So it's important to get that hardener mixed throughout putty and nice and good mix. And like I said, a little bit of this goes a long way, so again, just keep on mixing it. About 30-60 seconds. I think we're getting there now. I can't see any more yellow. It's looking like a uniform kind of cream color now. Okay, I think we're mixing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit, break a little piece off, and then basically make a sausage. And we can kind of do like a little kind of strip of windows at a time. So first of all, we'll start with this guy. And we're just going to just run it. Across the windows. And then we want to push it through. And just make sure they all stick through like that. And we'll just go ahead and do the rest. This stuff takes about 3 to 5 hours normally to fully cure, but like I said, if you leave this stuff overnight, it's pretty bad for the best. Again, just kind of and again, just pushing it through so I can see it just oozes out the other side. And this stuff dries rock hard, like really hard. Okay, then last bit. So again, just making that sausage and kind of pushing it through, and then just pressing it. Finally, so the bit I've made just pretty much covered one side of this, so I'm just going to make a little bit more up for the other side, but again, we're just going to push this, spread it out across the inside here, and just squeeze it. Like that. So a nice, cute, a cool little tip right now is you can actually kind of cut this stuff off, and it saves you a little bit more saves you a little bit of sanding to do. So if I get a knife, you don't really want to use your best knife. I use my usual one here, and again, just kind of sideways on. You're just going to like this. Oh, see how it just cuts off. You can actually reuse this too. And then what this does is it just saves you a little bit of sanding, I think, on the other end. But I'm just with my hand, I'm just kind of smoothing it out, get on the up. So a little bit of prep work here, make, you know, obviously you want to do the least sanding as possible. So I'm just making sure basically the windows are covered, but there's not going to be you know, thousands of ounces of sanding to do on the outside. So like we did last time, that's a problem with the other with doing from the outside in. There's tons of sanding and stuff. So this way I think it's a little bit cleaner. So now we have minimal cleanup. So we're obviously from the inside, we're just let this dry out overnight, and then tomorrow we'll come back and we'll sand it back. But the way it looks now is it looks like we filled the windows, but there's not tons, you know, we're talking about millimeter, if that, less than a millimeter, just to sand back to get rid of it. So I'm going to put this one to the side, I'm going to work on the other one, and then tomorrow, power of editing, we'll come back and then we'll work on sanding this back. So what I've actually done is, so I just applied a Milliput, and I took a paper towel, a moist paper towel in the kitchen sink, and just rubbed it over it, because if you add water to Milliput, it makes it smooth out. So paper towel just smoothed it all out and wiped away some of the excess, and then on a dry paper towel just rubbed it off. And look, you've got very minimal sanding now. It looks really good. So I just did that real quick immediately after I applied it. Just want to share that tip with you. So it looked really good. Just in the kitchen sink with a say like a moist paper towel, wipe all the excess Milliput off and smooth it out, and then it also gives us way less sanding to take care of as well. So just want to share that. So now I'm just going to put it up and rest it for the evening, and I'll come back. We'll come back tomorrow, and we'll work on getting this sanded down. Okay, so it's the following morning, and this stuff is fully hard and gone off and cured, so overnight, perfect. So this side I've done already, and now it's looking really good. And basically what I did was, I'll show you in a minute, but it's taking a very, it's a mid-grade sanding stick, and just basically sand it down, and then with old sanding sponge, just went back to get rid of any scratches. So it's now really smooth, and basically what I did is almost like Braille. I just run my fingers across it, and then any kind of bumps or anything I can feel, I just went back and sanded some more and just redid it. So that side's done. So let's talk about the left side. So obviously we've got some more here. If I've got, typically what I've done sanding recently is any kind of heavy sanding, I just do in the kitchen sink, and like wet sand under running water, and then there's no sand over your bench. It's all the kitchen sink, just wash it away with the faucet. It's super easy. So this time I was thinking about moving my camera and doing it over in the kitchen sink, but I figured there's not a ton of sanding right here, there's just a little bit. So we're okay to do it here on the bench. So I'm just going to take my sanding stick, again this is like a medium grade, and then I'm just going to basically just run it across the windows. Like this. In different directions. Again, I'm not just taking the raised part of the putty away, I'm not taking the fuselage. Again, just use my finger to feel. I can still feel it raised. Okay, and then once that bit's done, take my sponge. And as easy as that, like I said, I feel a few more little bumps right here. So again, take my sanding stick, just take away the raised area. Feels much better. Come back with the sponge. And that's it. So I'm basically I'm not going to bore you guys, but I'm basically working my way across all the windows, and we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to sand it away with a sanding stick, and then come back with a buffer, just kind of take away any scratches and just smooth it all out. So you've done that section, so you've got these two front sections to work on. Alright, so we've got the windows all filled and sanded and looking good. It's just way easier to do this stuff when it's in halves. And I learned, lessons learned from my last one I did of these, the 737 is well, if you want to rescribe, now's probably the time to do it, but it's flat. You can rescribe. Fortunately with this, there's no rescribing because we got so little we sanded. So you can rescribe it now, but because once it's put together, obviously it makes a cylindrical shape, and it's all going to be kind of rolling around and stuff. So it is definitely better to kind of take care of that before we put these halves together. And now for the first time, actually, I'm just going to put these and see how it looks. Actually looks really good. Cool. All right, I'm just doing a quick once over. All right, so obviously cut these from the sprues, and just be mindful of the hard parts on these sprues, little tiny aerials and stuff around it, so don't throw these away, make sure you keep it. And on the other side, looks like there's like a Wi-Fi bulge or something that goes on the top. So again, be careful when you cut these off. So keep those in one place, and yeah, we're ready to kind of move on a little bit. It's just a little dusty. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one half, we use this half, and looking at the instructions here, we're going to basically put the nose wheel bay in, which is, so I was looking everywhere for part 1A in the sprues, and I realized, oh, part 1A is actually part C5 and C7. So C5 and C7, these two guys, you got to glue this bit in first, but the thing about this is you don't know the angle it's going to go at, so I just kind of glued it in place, but I mean, there is some wiggle room probably, but again, it's kind of ambiguous where it goes. One thing I should note too is, this is the part at the very beginning where you put the windows in, if you're going to do that. With this scheme I'm doing, I forgot to mention, but you can't, well, I guess you can, but you can't really put windows in. You got to fill them because the decals wrap around, and it says like Star Wars, and they cover the windows. So if you're going to have clear windows, you're going to individually cut out each window on that decal that wraps around over it, and that's virtually impossible. It's going to be a complete nightmare, so you've got to fill it and use decals for this one, if you're using the decal option I'm going with. If you're going with something else, I don't know, like British Airways or I don't know, United Airlines or whatever it may be, that you probably if your preference, you may be able to just go with clear windows. If that's the case, what I recommend is you paint the area around here first with the fuselage color, which will probably be white, let it dry, then you put the clear windows in, and then sandwich it all together, and then when you paint the whole thing, you just run a piece of masking tape over all the windows. Then you have to individually mask every single one. But like I say, I always like to fill windows on these airliner models. There's no interior anyway, and even there's no cockpit interior, nothing, so it's kind of pointless. So going back to this, so I've got this little guy made up. So what we're going to do is we're just going to glue this in, which, looking at the placement here. Okay, so it looks like it goes there. So I'm just going to get my white top glue, the cement, which is slightly thicker. I'm just going to run some in the area. Healthy dose, because I don't want this thing coming apart. Okay, like that. So that's that part done. I'm going to run, I'll give it a couple minutes to go off, and I'll run some extra thin around it too, or maybe some PVA just to make sure that's really solidly in, because we don't want that coming loose at all. There you go, just make sure it's lined up. Then next up we need some nose weight. It says here 5 grams, which is bad, so it's pretty well balanced aircraft. You don't really need much at all. So I'm just gonna go with my usual fishing weights. Again, I talk about this all the time. I go to Walmart for $1 to get a bag of different sizes. So obviously in the US come in ounces. So quarter ounce, so 28 grams in an ounce. So a quarter of an ounce is gonna be 7 grams. So a couple over, so this is gonna cover us. So I'm going to use one of these little fishing weights, basically. And all I'm going to do is, just going to stick it in the front, and where should we put it? Like up here. So I'm just going to take my super glue, easy as this, just put a dollar pin, healthy dose of super glue, place the nose weight like right that, and push it towards the middle. Just need to prop it up with some tape or something. There we go. There we go. Easy as that. So you want to make sure it's away from anywhere it's going to join, not impede with any cockpit window or anything. So that's a small weight right out of the way, and that's going to do perfect. So we're going to leave it like that to dry now for, I don't know, half an hour or so. And once it's set, we can come back and put the 2 fuselage halves together. Now, I'm going to save that for next episode because that's going to involve us doing a whole big seam line here, and it's probably a fresh topic. So I think I'm going to wrap the video up here. So this video, obviously, we talked about the intro, what we're going to do, and the filling the windows. And I think hopefully seeing that my method of doing it from the inside out is a lot better than what we did with the 737, where we did it outside in. Just way cleaner, less sanding, just a lot easier overall, I think. But that's it. So I'm going to wrap up this episode. This concludes part number 1. I'll be back with part 2 next week. So in the meantime, hope you have a great week, great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.